The desperate scream echoed through the rainy night, slicing through the silence like a sharp blade. Miguel, a 15-year-old boy, froze in his tracks amidst the storm, his heart pounding in his chest. Through the relentless curtain of rain, he made out a graceful figure collapsing near a luxurious car. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward the cry for help, his soaked sneakers slapping against the wet asphalt, leaving behind the meager shelter of the bus stop where he had been waiting. It was yet another late night for Miguel on his way back from work. His 3 informal jobs, morning newspaper delivery, afternoon work at a diner, and evening cleaning at an office, consumed nearly every moment of his time. Since his parents had died in a tragic bus accident 6 months ago, he had taken on the responsibility of caring for his 8-year-old sister, Anna, who suffered from a severe heart condition. The apartment they shared was tiny, located on the 10th floor of a building without an elevator in the city's outskirts. The peeling walls and leaky ceiling on rainy days were constant reminders of their dire circumstances. Yet, Miguel clung fiercely to the promise he had made to his parents with their dying breath, to take care of Anna with everything he had. On this particular night, fate had placed Helena Montero in his path, though he didn't yet know her name. The woman, appearing to be around 65 years old, was sprawled beside her black Mercedes-Benz, one hand clutching her chest while the other reached futilely for her purse, which had slipped out of reach. Ma'am, hold on," Miguel shouted as he rushed to her side. His dark hair clung to his forehead, drenched from the rain, and his thin t-shirt was completely soaked. The only jacket he owned was at home. He had lent it to Anna to keep her warm because of her condition. As he drew closer, Miguel grasped the seriousness of the situation. The woman's face was pale, twisted in an expression of sharp pain. Her lips, usually adorned with elegant lipstick, were beginning to turn blue. Displaying a calmness remarkable for someone so young, Miguel instinctively sprang into action. First, he shielded the woman from the rain with the small umbrella he carried, a gift from his mother that he treasured deeply. Next, he retrieved her fallen purse and searched for a cell phone. The high-end device had slipped out, its screen completely shattered and unusable. Miguel then pulled out his own phone, an old, basic model he mainly kept to stay in touch with Anna. His hands trembled slightly as he dialed for emergency services, but his voice remained steady. "Please, I need an ambulance immediately," he said, articulating each word clearly. "I'm on Main Avenue in front of the Platinum Building. There's a woman having what appears to be a heart attack." While waiting for help to arrive, Miguel took the woman's hand, noticing the diamond ring on her finger, a stark contrast to his own calloused hands, worn from hard labor. But in that moment, the divide between their worlds didn't matter. He was determined to keep her conscious. "My name is Miguel," he began, his voice calm yet firm. "I'm staying right here with you until the ambulance arrives. Can you tell me your name?" "Helena," she managed to whisper between gasps of pain. "Miss Helena, stay with me please," Miguel urged gently, squeezing her hand lightly. "Do you like music? You know, my sister Anna loves to sing. Even with all her health problems, she never loses her joy. Sometimes, when I come home late from work, I find her awake, humming the songs our mom used to teach us." Miguel kept talking, sharing small fragments of his life, drawing Helena's attention to his voice rather than the pain overwhelming her. He spoke about juggling 3 jobs to make ends meet, about his dreams of returning to school someday, and about the strength his sister showed, facing her illness with a smile. The rain continued to pour relentlessly, but Miguel stood resolute, holding the umbrella over Helena with one hand while keeping the other gently clasped in hers. His clothes were soaked through and he shivered from the cold, but he didn't care. At that moment, all that mattered was keeping the elderly woman safe and conscious. The wail of sirens pierced the night, and soon the red and blue lights of the ambulance lit up the scene. The paramedics arrived swiftly, taking over with professional efficiency. As they prepared Helena for transport, she gripped Miguel's hand with surprising strength. "Come with me," she whispered, her eyes pleading. "Please?" Miguel hesitated. It was nearly midnight, and Anna would be waiting for him. His sister grew anxious when he was late, her fragile heart racing with worry. But something in Helena's gaze made it impossible to refuse. "I'll let my sister know," he said, quickly sending Anna a message explaining the situation. Her reply came almost instantly, reassuring him that she would be fine and urging him to help the woman. During the ride to the hospital, Miguel held Helena's purse and kept talking to her, ensuring she stayed conscious. The paramedics worked swiftly, administering medication and monitoring her vitals. Miguel watched everything with a mix of concern and fascination, reminded of how his own sister had been in similar circumstances. At that moment, drenched to the bone, trembling from the cold and exhausted after a long day's work, Miguel had no idea that his act of compassion was about to set off a chain of events that would change his life forever. His only thought was ensuring Helena's well-being, entirely unaware that his selflessness would become the catalyst for an extraordinary transformation in his own story. The hospital's automatic doors slid open with a hiss, and the icy blast of air conditioning hit Miguel like a slap. His soaked clothes dripped onto the immaculately clean floor as Helena's stretcher was rushed down a brightly lit hallway. The sharp scent of antiseptic mixed with the aroma of coffee from the doctor's lounge, creating an atmosphere that made his stomach churn. "You need to wait here," a nurse said firmly, blocking Miguel from following beyond the double doors of the emergency room. He stood still, clutching Helena's purse, feeling small and out of place in the sterile, impersonal environment. The hours that followed were an exercise in patience and anxiety. The waiting room was a mosaic of human emotions, families awaiting news, some crying softly, others whispering in small clusters. Miguel curled up in a chair in the corner, his wet clothes clinging uncomfortably to his skin, forming a small puddle beneath his feet. His phone buzzed. It was Anna again. "Are you okay, me? I'm scared." "I'm fine, little one. Try to get some sleep. I'll be home soon. Promise?" "I promise. Take your meds, okay?" Each message from Anna felt like a stab to his heart. He knew she was alone in their tiny apartment, probably curled up in bed with the blanket pulled up to her chin, battling her fear of being left behind. Since their parents' death, Anna had developed a deep fear of losing Miguel too. A cleaning staff member passed by periodically, throwing suspicious glances his way. Miguel was all too familiar with the look. An adolescent, soaked and dressed in worn, simple clothing, didn't seem to belong in such a luxurious private hospital. At one point, she even approached him with a stern expression. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone making it clear the only help she was offering was directions to the exit. Miguel raised Helena's purse as if it were a shield. "I'm waiting for news about Mrs. Helena Montero. I brought her in the ambulance." The mention of the name triggered an immediate change in the staff member's demeanor. She backed away quickly, whispering something to the receptionist, who immediately picked up the phone. Minutes later, a tall, gray-haired doctor appeared, his tired but alert eyes scanning the room until they landed on Miguel. "You're the young man who helped Mrs. Montero?" he asked, approaching. "I'm Dr. Roberto." Miguel stood up quickly, his numb legs protesting. "Yes, sir. How is she?" The doctor studied him for a moment before answering, his eyes softening as he noticed the boy's condition. "You saved her life, did you know that? The heart attack was massive. If it weren't for your quick thinking and keeping her conscious until help arrived." He left the sentence hanging, its meaning heavy in the air between them. "Can I see her?" Miguel asked, his voice trembling slightly, both from cold and emotion. "She's sedated right now, but—" Dr. Roberto paused, watching the boy shiver. "First, we need to take care of you. I can't have another patient with pneumonia." The doctor led Miguel to a small break room reserved for the staff. He asked a nurse to bring towels and a clean set of scrubs. "Dry off and change. I'll get you something warm to drink." Alone in the room, Miguel finally allowed the tears to fall. The weight of the past few months, his parents' death, Anna's illness, the 3 jobs, the endless bills, seemed to crush his 15-year-old shoulders. He quickly wiped his eyes with the backs of his calloused hands, determined not to succumb to despair. As he dried himself, his thoughts drifted to the last conversation he had with his mother, just hours before the accident. She had noticed his talent for math, his dream of becoming an engineer. "You'll go far, my son," she said, fixing his unruly hair. "You have a heart of gold and a brilliant mind." The sound of her laughter still echoed in his memory, a sweet and painful reminder. A nurse brought hot chocolate and some sandwiches. Miguel hadn't realized how hungry he was until he smelled the food. He devoured everything quickly, feeling the warmth of the drink spread through his exhausted body. It was almost 5 in the morning when Dr. Roberto returned. "Helena woke up," he said with a small smile. "And she's demanding to see her savior." Helena's room was spacious and private, with a view of the city that was beginning to wake up. The soft morning light filtered through the curtains, creating dancing shadows on the walls. Helena was reclined in bed, connected to several monitors that emitted rhythmic beeps. Despite her pallor and evident fatigue, her eyes lit up when she saw Miguel. "My guardian angel," she said softly, extending her hand toward him. Her voice was hoarse but filled with emotion. Miguel approached timidly, still wearing the hospital scrubs. "How are you feeling, Mrs. Helena?" "Alive, thanks to you," she replied, squeezing his hand with surprising strength. Her eyes studied the young face in front of her, noticing every detail, the deep dark circles, the worried expression that was far beyond his age, the visible exhaustion in his eyes. Dr. Roberto told me everything. You stayed in the rain with me, protected me, never left me alone for a moment. Why? The question caught Miguel off guard. He thought of his mother, her last words about his golden heart. He thought of Anna, and how she faced her illness with a brave smile. Because it was the right thing to do, he answered simply. You needed help. Helena continued to watch him, her eyebrows furrowed in concentration. How old are you, young man? 15, ma'am. 15? The surprise in her voice was evident. And what were you doing alone at that time of night? Miguel hesitated, nervously fiddling with the hem of his scrub. I was coming back from work. Actually, one of the jobs. One of the jobs? Helena shifted in bed, ignoring the protest of the monitors. Tell me your story, please. I want to understand who the young man is that God put in my path tonight. And so, Miguel began to tell his story. He spoke about the accident that took his parents, his father, a bus driver, and his mother, a primary school teacher. He told her about Anna and her congenital heart condition, the expensive medications, and the frequent doctor visits. He explained how he took on 3 jobs, a newspaper delivery boy in the morning, a helper at a snack bar in the afternoon, and a cleaning assistant at night. His voice trembled as he spoke about having to leave school, about the dreams of becoming an engineer locked away in a drawer alongside his last report cards. He talked about the nights he stayed awake doing calculations, trying to stretch the money to cover all the bills, about the constant fear of something happening to Anna while he was away. Helena listened in silence, tears freely streaming down her face. When Miguel finished, she held his hand with renewed strength. Miguel, she said, her voice heavy with emotion, you are one of the most extraordinary human beings I've ever met. At only 15, you carry responsibilities that would make many adults give up. And still, even with all this weight, you kept your heart open and kind enough to help a stranger in the rain. She paused, taking a deep breath. Your life is going to change from today on, Miguel. I promise. Miguel didn't fully understand the meaning of those words, but something in the determination in Helena's eyes made him believe her. Before he could respond, Dr. Roberto entered the room. Mrs. Helena needs to rest now, he said gently. And you, young man, need to go home. Your sister must be very worried. Helena nodded but didn't let go of Miguel's hand. Come back tomorrow, please. We have a lot to talk about. And take this to get a taxi. I don't want you walking around at this hour. She gestured to the nurse, who took some bills from her purse. Miguel tried to refuse, but Helena's gaze silenced him. It's the least I can do for now, she said with a mysterious smile. Now go rest a little. But promise me you'll come back tomorrow? I promise, Miguel replied, feeling the weight of the bills in his hand, more money than he earned in a week of work. As he left the hospital, the sun was rising on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. The rain had stopped and the air was clean and fresh. Miguel took a deep breath, feeling that something fundamental had shifted in his life. What he didn't yet know was that that night, that seemingly casual encounter, would mark the beginning of an extraordinary transformation that would affect not only his life but everyone around him. The sun was already high when Miguel finally arrived home. His legs were trembling with exhaustion as he climbed the 10 floors of the old building. The elevator, broken for months, was yet another reminder of the daily struggles he faced. The smell of mold and dampness permeated the peeling walls, and the handrail on the stairs was loose in several places. With each step, he felt the weight of exhaustion and responsibility on his young shoulders. When he opened the door to the small apartment, the creak of the rusted hinges echoed through the silent space. He found Anna asleep on the worn-out couch in the living room, still wearing her school uniform, a storybook fallen beside her. The sunlight coming through the broken window, patched up with tape, cast a delicate pattern on her serene face. Me, she murmured sleepily, her eyes opening as she heard his footsteps. Her voice carried a mix of relief and concern. You took so long? I was scared. Miguel knelt beside the couch, brushing a strand of hair from his sister's face. He noticed the dark circles under her eyes. She had probably fought sleep, waiting for him. Sorry, little one. Something important happened last night? His fingers instinctively searched for her pulse, a habit formed since they discovered her heart condition. The beat was steady but a little fast, a sign that she had been worrying too much. Did you take your medicine? He asked, already heading to the small kitchen where they kept the medications in an old shoebox. The cabinet creaked as it opened, revealing nearly empty shelves. They would need to go grocery shopping soon, though money was tight again. "I took them all," Anna replied, sitting up on the couch. Her sharp eyes studied her brother, noticing the hospital scrubs he was wearing. "Those clothes aren't yours. What happened? Are you hurt?" The concern in her voice was palpable. Miguel sat beside her, too exhausted to remain standing. The couch sagged under his weight, the worn-out springs groaning loudly. In a few words, he recounted the story of Helena and the events of the previous night. Anna listened attentively, her large brown eyes widening at each detail. Her small hands squeezed his every time he mentioned a particularly tense moment in the story. "You saved her life, me," she exclaimed, throwing her arms around him in a tight hug. "Just like the doctors saved mine so many times." Her voice was filled with pride and admiration. Miguel returned the hug, feeling Anna's small, brave heart beating against his chest. The irregular rhythm that always worried him was a constant reminder of her fragility. For a moment, he allowed himself to imagine a different future. One where he didn't have to constantly worry about money for medicine, where he could return to school, where Anna could get proper treatment. "I have to go back to the hospital this afternoon," he said after a moment. "Dona Helena asked me to." His fingers absent-mindedly played with a loose thread on the couch as his mind wandered between worry and hope. "Can I come with you?" Anna asked, her eyes shining with hope. "Please. I promise to be quiet." She straightened up on the couch, trying to appear stronger than she really was. Miguel hesitated. Anna rarely left the house except for school or doctor's appointments. Her fragile heart kept her from doing many activities, and the constant fear of another crisis made Miguel overly protective. The memories of the last severe episode still haunted him, her pale face, blue lips, and the frantic rush to the hospital. "I don't know if that's a good idea, Anna." His voice betrayed the concern he tried to hide. "Please," she insisted, putting on the expression she knew her brother couldn't resist. Her large, pleading eyes reminded him so much of their mother that it sometimes hurt to look at her. "I want to meet the lady you helped. And it's been so long since I went out. I'm tired of always staying home." Miguel sighed, defeated. The desire to give his sister a normal life always clashed with his instinct to protect her. "All right, but you have to promise to rest until then. And we'll take a taxi. Dona Helena gave me money." Anna celebrated quietly, in the restrained way she had learned since discovering her condition. There were no more shouts of joy or leaps of excitement. Every emotion was expressed carefully, measured by the fragility of her heart. Miguel sent her to bed, promising to wake her up in a few hours. While Anna slept, he tried to rest on the old mattress they shared in their cramped room, but his mind was too restless. Helena's words echoed in his head. "Your life will change starting today." What did she mean by that? And why would such a wealthy, important woman take an interest in the life of a poor teenager? The small room he shared with Anna felt stifling despite the open window. The thin walls let in the noise of the neighbors, a baby crying, a TV blaring too loud, distant arguments. Miguel watched his sister sleep, her chest rising and falling in the uneven rhythm he had learned to monitor constantly. Around 2 in the afternoon, Miguel woke Anna. He helped her get ready, making sure she was warmly dressed despite the sunny day. Her clothes, though clean, showed signs of heavy use, small patches here and there, colors faded from countless washes. He packed all her medications into his backpack, along with water and some cookies, precautions he had learned to take whenever they left the house. The taxi stopped in front of the hospital, and Miguel noticed Anna gripping his hand tighter. Hospitals brought difficult memories for her. Months of hospitalization, painful procedures, the constant fear of not waking up after surgery. The characteristic antiseptic smell made her cling even closer to her brother. "It's okay," he whispered, squeezing her hand in return. "We're not here for you today." He tried to sound confident, though his own heart was racing with anxiety over what lay ahead. At the reception desk, the staff's attitude toward Miguel had completely changed. The same security guard who had eyed him with suspicion the night before now greeted him with a respectful smile. As soon as he mentioned Helena Montero's name, they were immediately escorted to her room by a friendly nurse who couldn't stop praising his courage the previous night. Helena was sitting in an armchair near the window, looking much stronger than the night before. Her gray hair was elegantly styled, and she wore a silk blue robe that stood out against the sterile white of the room. Her face lit up when she saw Miguel, but her expression softened even more when she noticed Anna, partially hidden behind her brother. "And who is this charming young lady?" Helena asked with a warm smile, her eyes sparkling with genuine interest. "This is my sister, Anna," Miguel replied, gently nudging Anna forward. The pride in his voice was unmistakable. She really wanted to meet you. Anna took a small step forward, her cheeks lightly flushed. Her hands clutched the worn coat she wore, a nervous gesture Miguel knew all too well. Thank you for being so kind to my brother, Mrs. Helena. He's the best person in the world. Helena chuckled softly, a melodious sound that seemed to warm the entire room. She extended her hand toward Anna, noticing how the girl moved cautiously, as if each movement required deliberate effort. Come here, dear. I want to get to know the sister of my guardian angel. As Anna approached timidly, Helena's experienced eyes, the same ones that had built a business empire from scratch, took in every detail. She noticed the girl's pallor, the slight tremor in her hands, and the way her breathing seemed a bit more labored than normal. But she also saw the strength in her eyes, the same determination she had observed in Miguel. Miguel told me about your condition, Helena said gently, holding Anna's small hands between her own. You're very brave, you know that? Anna smiled, a smile that lit up her entire face and reached her eyes. Sometimes I'm scared, but me always says that being brave doesn't mean not being afraid. It means facing your fears. Helena looked at Miguel with renewed admiration. The wisdom in his words, coming from someone so young, deeply impressed her. Your brother is very wise for someone his age. She paused as if making an important decision. Miguel, Anna, I need to talk to you about something serious. Miguel sat in the chair next to Helena's armchair with Anna on his lap. The familiar weight of his sister was comforting as his heart raced with anticipation. Helena watched them for a moment, her eyes shining with a mixture of emotions. Last night, when you saved me, Miguel, I was leaving an important meeting. I own one of the largest technology companies in the country and had just finalized an international deal that took months to conclude. She paused, adjusting herself in the armchair. I was thinking about how my business empire would continue after I'm gone since I have no children. I lost my husband 10 years ago, and we never had the chance to start a family. Her voice wavered slightly. And then God placed you in my path. Miguel and Anna listened intently, not daring to interrupt. The only sounds in the room were the soft beeping of the heart monitors and Anna's slightly labored breathing. Your kindness, your courage, your maturity, all of it showed me how special you are, Miguel. The way you care for your sister, how you've taken on responsibilities that would make many adults give up. Helena took a deep breath, steadying the emotion in her voice. And now, meeting Anna, I see that love and strength are traits that run in your family. She paused, reaching for a folder on the table beside her. I want to help you. Not as charity but as an investment in your future. I want to ensure Anna receives the best medical care available, that you can return to school, and that both of you have the chance to achieve your dreams. The silence that followed her words was deep and heavy with emotion. Miguel could feel his heart pounding as loudly as Anna's, hardly daring to believe what he was hearing. You would do that for us? His voice came out trembling, thick with the emotion he was struggling to contain. Helena smiled, reaching out to hold both Miguel's and Anna's hands. You gave me something money can't buy, Miguel. You saved my life and reminded me that true kindness still exists in the world. Let me repay you by giving you the opportunities you deserve. Anna, who had been quiet until now, suddenly began crying softly, tears streaming down her pale cheeks. Does this mean me won't have to work so hard anymore? That he can go back to school? Exactly, my dear, Helena replied, her own eyes glistening with tears. And it means you'll have the best doctors taking care of you. I've already made some calls. There's a specialized clinic ready to start your treatment immediately. We'll face this together as a family. Miguel was crying now, years of worry and responsibility weighing heavily in his tears. I don't know how to thank you. His voice faltered, overwhelmed by the emotion of the moment. There's no need to thank me, Helena gently interrupted. Just promise me you'll dedicate yourself to your studies with the same determination you've shown in taking care of your sister. You have incredible potential, Miguel, and I want to see you achieve it. This is our chance to create something extraordinary together. The impact of Helena's promise didn't take long to materialize. The next morning, a specialized medical team was already waiting for Anna at the city's best private hospital. The contrast with the public healthcare they were used to was stark, from the air-conditioned reception to the state-of-the-art equipment. Dr. Renato, one of the country's leading pediatric cardiologists, personally examined Anna. His experienced hands and gentle manner quickly earned the girl's trust. Miguel watched everything with a mix of gratitude and apprehension, still trying to process how his life had changed so drastically in less than 48 hours. Your case is complex, Anna, but completely treatable with the right resources, Dr. Renato explained, showing detailed images of her heart on a digital screen. We'll start a new treatment protocol immediately. With the correct medication and possibly surgery, you'll be able to live a nearly normal life. Anna squeezed Miguel's hand, her eyes shining with a hope he hadn't seen in years. Can I go back to running in the park, doctor? With time and proper care, yes, the doctor replied with a gentle smile. But let's take it one step at a time. Helena, who had been discharged from the hospital but insisted on attending the appointment, watched the scene with tears in her eyes. Money has never been a problem for me, she whispered to Miguel. But I never really knew what to do with it until now. After the appointment, Helena took them to see what would be their new home. A spacious apartment in a safe neighborhood, close to the hospital and the best school in the area. Miguel and Anna were speechless as they stepped into the bright, airy space, so different from the cramped, moldy apartment they had called home. This room is yours, Anna, Helena said, showing her a space painted in soft shades of pink and blue, with a comfortable bed and shelves filled with books. And that one is yours, Miguel, she pointed to an equally cozy room, complete with a study desk and a brand new computer. But how? Why? Miguel stammered, overwhelmed by her generosity. Helena firmly held his hands. Because you showed me that there are special people in this world, people who deserve a chance. And I want to give you that chance. The following days were a whirlwind of change. Miguel quit his 3 jobs, focusing on returning to his studies. Helena hired the best private tutors to help him catch up on lost time. Anna began her new treatment, and for the first time in years her complexion improved, and her energy levels began to rise. However, not everything was smooth sailing. Miguel struggled to adapt to this new reality. Years of premature responsibility had left deep marks. Sometimes he would wake up in the middle of the night in a panic, thinking he had missed work. Other times he felt guilty for studying when he thought he could be earning money. Helena noticed his internal struggle and suggested therapy. Asking for help isn't a sign of weakness, Miguel. You've carried the weight of the world on your shoulders for too long. Now you need to learn how to be a teenager again. The psychologist, Dr. Carmen, helped Miguel process his traumas and fears. You've developed an extraordinary sense of responsibility, she explained. But you also need to trust that others can help carry the load. Anna, on the other hand, blossomed with her new treatment. Her cheeks gained color and her smile, always present despite the hardships, now shone even brighter. She made friends at her new school, started music lessons, a dream she had never dared to have, and slowly regained the energy typical of a child her age. Helena watched the transformation of the siblings with deep satisfaction. During her frequent visits, she always brought something new, a book for Miguel, a musical instrument for Anna, but most importantly, her time and attention. She had become more than a benefactor. She was a constant and loving presence in their lives. You know, she said one evening during dinner, I always thought my greatest achievement would be my company. But now I see that true success lies in making a difference in someone's life. Miguel, who was preparing for his college entrance exams, looked at her with gratitude. You didn't just change our lives, Mrs. Helena. You gave us a second chance to live. And you gave me something even more precious, she replied, her eyes shining. You gave me a family. The transformation wasn't just about the practical aspects of their lives. Something profound was happening in each of their hearts. Miguel was learning to balance responsibility with self-care, to accept help without feeling diminished. Anna was discovering that her condition didn't have to define her life, that she could dream and achieve. And Helena, who had always measured success in numbers and business accomplishments, found a new definition of wealth in Anna's smile, in Miguel's academic progress, and in the simple moments they shared together. One day, while helping Anna with her homework, something he could now do thanks to the private lessons, Miguel found a drawing she had made. It was a simple picture of 3 people holding hands. Him, Anna, and Helena. Below, in her childish handwriting, she had written, "My family." That drawing perfectly captured the transformation in their lives. It wasn't just about material comfort or opportunities, it was about belonging, about creating bonds that went beyond blood or money. It was about how one act of kindness could spark a wave of love and healing that transformed not just one life but future generations. 6 months had passed since that rainy night that forever changed the lives of Miguel, Anna, and Helena. Autumn arrived with its golden hues, bringing even deeper transformations. Miguel had dedicated himself to his studies, catching up on years of missed education with a determination that impressed even his private tutors. On a crisp October morning, Miguel sat in the apartment's library, poring over books on physics and mathematics. His hands, once calloused from hard labor, now bore a different kind of wear, marks from pencils and pens, silent witnesses to his long hours of study. The comforting silence was broken by Helena, who entered carrying a large, sealed envelope. "Miguel," she called, her voice trembling slightly with emotion, "the letter from the university is here." His heart raced. In recent weeks, he had prepared intensely for the entrance exams to the engineering program, his dream since childhood. Despite Helena's unwavering support and access to the best teachers, the pressure he felt was immense. With trembling hands, Miguel opened the envelope. His eyes scanned the official text until they landed on the word that would change his life once more: accepted. He let out a cry of joy that echoed through the apartment, prompting Anna to run out of her room to see what was happening. "Me, did you make it?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. Her new treatment had worked wonders. Her cheeks were rosy, and she could now run short distances without gasping for air. "I made it, little one." Miguel hugged her, carefully spinning her around. "I'm going to be an engineer." Helena watched the scene with tears in her eyes, her heart swelling with pride. "I never doubted you, my dear. Not for a single second." But the joy of the moment was abruptly interrupted by a sharp, persistent sound. The alarm from Anna's heart monitor began to blare. In seconds, the girl's face turned pale, and she collapsed into her brother's arms. "Anna?" Miguel shouted, his heart freezing with fear. All their recent achievements seemed to fade before the familiar terror of seeing his sister in crisis. Helena already had the phone in hand, calling for emergency assistance. Within minutes, which felt like hours, the private medical team overseeing Anna's care arrived at the apartment. Dr. Renato, who had become a constant presence in their lives, immediately began emergency procedures. "It's a severe arrhythmia," he explained as monitors and equipment were connected. "We need to get her to the hospital immediately." At the hospital, the hours stretched into an eternity. Miguel paced back and forth in the waiting room, his thoughts swinging between the joy of his college acceptance and the fear of losing his sister. Helena stayed by his side, a quiet but reassuring presence. "Why did this have to happen today?" Miguel vented, his voice breaking. "Just when everything seemed perfect." Helena held his hands firmly. "Life rarely follows the script we plan, Miguel. But that doesn't mean we should lose hope." After what felt like an eternity, Dr. Renato appeared, his face serious but not alarming. "The episode was stronger than the previous ones," he explained. "The treatment we've been using is no longer enough. We need to consider the surgery we discussed earlier." Miguel felt the weight of those words. The surgery had always been presented as a last resort, a complex and delicate procedure that could permanently fix Anna's heart problem, but which carried its own risks. "What's the success rate?" Helena asked, her voice steady in a way Miguel couldn't manage. "With the team we have and advancements in medicine, there's an 85% chance of complete success," the doctor replied. "But we need to act quickly. Her heart is deteriorating faster than we anticipated." Miguel looked out the window of the room where Anna now rested, sedated and connected to various monitors. His little sister seemed so small and fragile in that large hospital bed. The same girl who just minutes ago had been celebrating with him his college acceptance was now once again fighting for her life. "If we don't do the surgery?" Miguel couldn't finish the sentence. "The prognosis isn't good," Dr. Renato gently completed. "Each crisis like this causes more damage to her heart. Without the surgery, I can't guarantee she'll survive the next episode." Helena placed her hand on Miguel's shoulder. "The decision is yours, dear. But know that whatever you choose, I'm here with you. We'll face this together." Miguel approached Anna's bed, gazing at his sister's serene face. He remembered all the times she had faced her illness with a smile, how she never complained about the limitations her condition imposed. He thought about how she deserved the chance to live a full life, to pursue her own dreams. "We'll do the surgery," he finally said, his voice firm despite the tears in his eyes. "Anna has always been brave. Now it's my turn to be brave for her." Dr. Renato nodded, immediately beginning the preparations. The surgery was scheduled for the following morning, and a team of the best cardiac surgeons was assembled. Helena reached out to contacts, making sure everything was in place for the procedure. That night, Miguel stayed by Anna's bedside, holding her small hand in his. Helena brought coffee and food, but he barely touched anything. His entire world was focused on the steady beeps of the heart monitor, each sound confirming that his sister was still fighting. "You know," Helena said softly, sitting beside him, "sometimes the greatest trials come just when we think we've finally found happiness. But it's these moments that reveal our true strength." Miguel nodded silently, his eyes fixed on Anna's sleeping face. In less than 24 hours, he had experienced the highest and the lowest points of his life. The college acceptance, a dream come true, now seemed so distant in the face of the possibility of losing his sister. "She's all I have," he whispered, his voice choking with emotion. "No," Helena gently corrected, "she's not all you have. You have me now and we'll get through this together. Like a family." The first hours of the morning arrived with a palpable tension in the hospital. Anna was prepared for surgery, her small figure almost disappearing among the white sheets of the gurney. Before they took her to the operating room, she briefly woke from sedation. "Me," she called, her voice weak but clear. "I'm scared." Miguel took her hand, swallowing his own fear to give strength to his sister. "Remember what I always say about courage, little one? That being brave doesn't mean not being afraid," Anna replied with a small smile. "It means facing the fear." "Exactly. And you're the bravest person I know." The medical team began moving the gurney. Dr. Renato did one last check on the monitors. "It's time." Miguel leaned down and kissed his sister's forehead. "I'll see you in a few hours, warrior. I love you." "I love you too, me," Anna whispered before being taken away. The doors to the operating room closed with a heavy sound, leaving Miguel and Helena in the waiting room. Time seemed to drag. Each minute was an eternity of mixed anxiety and hope. Helena tried to keep Miguel occupied with conversations about the university, about plans for the future, but his thoughts always returned to those closed doors, wondering what was happening on the other side. 3 hours passed. 4, 5. The silence between them grew increasingly heavy. Miguel alternated between pacing nervously around the room and sitting down, only to stand up again minutes later. In the 6th hour of surgery, Dr. Renato appeared, still wearing his surgical scrubs. His face was weary, and Miguel's heart stopped when he saw bloodstains on the green uniform. "The surgery was more complicated than we expected," the doctor began, his voice deep. Her heart stopped twice on the table. Miguel felt his legs weaken. Helena steadied him, holding him tight. "But," Dr. Renato continued, a small smile beginning to form on his lips, "she's truly a warrior. We managed to stabilize her both times and the procedure was a success. Anna is alive and has a good chance of a full recovery." The tears Miguel had held back for so many hours finally fell freely. Helena embraced him tightly, also crying. "When can we see her?" Helena asked, her voice choked with emotion. "She's in the ICU right now. As soon as we finish stabilizing her, one of you can go in for a few minutes." The following hours were spent in constant vigil. Miguel refused to leave the hospital, even when Helena urged him to rest for a bit. Finally, in the early evening, they were allowed a brief visit. Anna was surrounded by machines, tubes, and monitors. Her chest rose and fell with the rhythm of the ventilator, and the constant beep of the heart monitor was the only sound in the room. But for the first time in Miguel's memory, the rhythm was strong and steady. "Hello, little one," he whispered, gently holding her hand. "You made it. You were so brave." The following days were spent in gradual recovery. Every small step forward was celebrated. When Anna breathed on her own for the first time, when she opened her eyes, and when she finally spoke. 1 week after the surgery, the doctors confirmed what everyone had been hoping for. The operation had been a complete success. Anna's heart, finally repaired, was beating strong and healthy. "It's like she was born again," Dr. Renato explained during a follow-up appointment. "With the right care, Anna will be able to live a completely normal life." The news was everything Miguel had always dreamed of hearing. That night, when they finally arrived home, Anna in a wheelchair, still recovering but with a radiant smile on her face, they found a surprise waiting for them. Helena had decorated the apartment with balloons and banners. A small celebration had been prepared, with all of Anna's favorite dishes and a special cake. "This is to celebrate 2 miracles," Helena said, emotional. "Our warrior's recovery and the approval of our future engineer in college." Anna, even though tired, had her eyes shining with happiness. "Now we can finally be a normal family, right, me?" Miguel looked at his sister, at Helena, at the apartment that had truly become a home. "No, little one," he replied with a smile. "We're much better than normal. We're extraordinary." Helena raised her glass of juice. Alcohol was still prohibited for Anna, in a toast. "To our extraordinary family. To our family." Miguel and Anna repeated in unison, their voices full of emotion and gratitude. In that moment, looking at the 2 people he loved most in the world, Miguel realized that sometimes the greatest miracles begin with the simplest gestures. An act of kindness on a rainy night had triggered a chain of events that not only transformed 3 lives but completely redefined the meaning of family. 3 years had passed since that rainy night that had forever changed the lives of Miguel, Anna, and Helena. Time had brought not only physical changes but also a deep transformation in their souls. Miguel, now 18 years old, was in his third semester of civil engineering, maintaining the top grades in his class. His professors frequently commented on his extraordinary dedication and his ability to solve complex problems with a maturity beyond his years. The teenager who once woke up at dawn to deliver newspapers now dedicated himself to innovative sustainable construction projects, dreaming of one day creating affordable housing for underprivileged families. Anna, now 11, had blossomed into a vibrant and healthy young girl. Her heart, finally healed, beat strong and steady, allowing her to enjoy all the activities that had once been off-limits. Her ballet classes, which had started as a gentle form of exercise recommended by doctors, revealed a natural talent no one had expected. Her eyes sparkled with contagious joy as she twirled across the stage in her performances, free from any physical limitations. Helena had found in her children a purpose that went far beyond the numbers and contracts that had once dominated her life. Though she still ran her business with the same competence as before, her priorities had shifted drastically. Now, her most important meetings were game nights with Miguel and Anna, or Sunday lunches where they shared their achievements and dreams. On a special spring afternoon, the three of them gathered in the garden of the mansion they now called home. Helena had organized a small celebration to mark the 3-year anniversary of that fateful night. "Sometimes I catch myself thinking," Helena began, serving lemonade in crystal glasses, "how one single decision can completely change the course of our lives." Miguel smiled, watching Anna play with her new dog, a gift from Helena to celebrate 1 year without any heart complications. "If I had ignored your request for help that night?" "But you didn't ignore it," Helena interrupted, her eyes sparkling with tears of gratitude. "And that's what makes you special, Miguel. Even with so many problems of your own, you chose to stop and help a stranger." Anna joined them at the garden table, her cheeks flushed from playing. "Me's always been like that," she said proudly. "Even when we barely had anything, he always found a way to help others." Helena pulled a large envelope from her bag. "That's why I have something important to share with you today." Miguel and Anna exchanged curious glances as Helena opened the envelope and pulled out some official documents. "Since you both came into my life, I've been thinking about the future," she began, her voice choked with emotion. "About how to make sure that you're always protected and cared for, even when I'm no longer here." "Miss Helena?" Miguel started, but she raised her hand, asking for silence. "Let me finish. These are adoption papers," she revealed, making both Miguel and Anna hold their breath. "I know you're practically adults already, especially you, Miguel. But I'd like to make official what our hearts have known for a long time. You are my children." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of birds singing in the garden and the distant rustling of wind in the trees. Anna was the first to react, jumping out of her chair to hug Helena, tears of joy streaming down her face. Miguel stood still for a moment, overwhelmed with emotion. Since the death of his parents, he had taken on the role of protector, of the responsible one. The idea of having someone who wanted to protect him, who wanted to officially call him their son, felt almost surreal. "I don't want to replace your parents," Helena continued gently, reaching out her hand to Miguel. "I know they'll always have a special place in your hearts. But I would like to offer you both one more place to call your own, one more heart to call home." Miguel finally stood up and joined the embrace, his tears mingling with Anna and Helena's. "You're already our family," he whispered. "The paper just makes official what we've already felt." That night, as the moon rose in the sky and the stars began to shine, the three of them stayed in the garden, sharing stories and dreams. Anna talked about her desire to become a doctor, inspired by her own journey of healing. Miguel spoke about his projects in college and his dream of using engineering to help underserved communities. Helena listened with her heart overflowing with love and pride. Her business empire, which once seemed like her only source of fulfillment, was now just one part of a much larger legacy. A legacy of love, compassion, and transformation. "You know," she said, looking up at the stars, "they say the true value of a person isn't in what they have, but in the impact they make on others' lives. Miguel, when you stopped to help me that night, you weren't just saving my life, you were changing the destiny of all of us. And proving that one act of kindness can trigger a wave of transformation," Anna added, cuddling into the arms of her now officially mother. Miguel smiled, feeling a deep peace in his heart. The journey had been long and at times painful, but each step had led them exactly where they needed to be, together as a family. And so, under the starry sky of that spring night, 3 lives intertwined by destiny celebrated not only an official adoption but the universal truth that love, when genuine, knows no barriers of blood, social class, or circumstance. Sometimes all we need is one moment of kindness to rewrite our story and discover that family is so much more than biological ties. It's a daily choice of love, care, and mutual dedication. And you, what did you think of this moving story? Don't forget to leave your comments on what touched you the most in this emotional journey, and if possible, please like the video with a thumbs up and subscribe to the Life Stories channel. This helps us continue bringing inspiring stories like this one that remind us of the transformative power of kindness and love. Until the next story.